The mind should not be distracted by the body, nor the body distracted by the mind. Do not let the mind become clouded inside. Keep it broad, and place your wisdom in a broad place. It is very important to polish both wisdom and mind earnestly. Welcome to Vagabond. I put up a survey on my channel asking people what they wanted me to read after I got done with Berserk. The answer, by a landslide, was Vagabond. And I mentioned last week that I did, in preparation for this video, pick up Musashi, and I have read all of Musashi. I have finished it by now, and I did this because... I wanted to go into this one prepared. Just for a bit of a backstory, when I went into Berserk, I went in completely blind. I had never read manga before in my entire life, and I did not know what the story was or where that story was going. So I was completely as blind as somebody could have gone into Berserk as how I went into it. This time around, I wanted to do this read-through differently. I wanted to go into this one prepared. Now that I have read manga, and I do know how the medium of manga works, I also wanted to go ahead and pick up the book that it was based on and read it. So I had a very good understanding of what this story was supposed to be and how it was supposed to be read. Ish. I'm still not super well read in manga, but I've read enough that I at least have an understanding of what this medium is supposed to be like, I guess. I also went ahead and picked up the Book of Five Rings, because why not? This is fascinating. I haven't read much, but what I have read is fascinating. Also, now that I've finished this book, I almost wanted to make a video just about the book Musashi, because that book, if I were to rate it, would probably be a 10. Like, legit. For real. If your only experience with this story is through the manga, which I haven't actually read yet, I've read this volume, but I haven't read any further, then I say go get this book, because oh my god, especially like the last 100 pages or so of it, oh god, Jesus, Lord almighty, it kind of... Oh, it's so good. To the point where I thought, uh-oh, this is a mistake. I shouldn't be reading this before I read the manga. Don't worry. That's all I have to say. Also, with all that said, I cannot think of a single person who in their right mind would read this book, which I just said was like a 10, and go, you know what I should do? Adapt that. What? Who in their right mind looks at that and says, yeah, I can do that justice. I'll just draw some pictures. It'll be fine. No, you don't even... I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. And then the brass balls on this dude must be enormous, because the greatest character in the entire book, by a long shot, is a man named Takuan. And he has the audacity to draw himself into the manga as Takuan. I'm like, you really? You are one confident motherfucker. Let me tell you right now. God, what's his name? Inoue? I am really not good with Japanese names. Inoue? Anyway, with all that out of the way, is it actually any good? Does it actually live up to the glory that is the book Musashi? Well, we start out on the battlefield. In literally the exact same place and in the exact same way that the book does. And the artwork is beautiful right off the jump. Unlike Berserk, which took a minute to grow into its art and for it to develop and to kind of fully flesh itself out and to become great, it kind of was really rough to begin with. This is not. This comes right out of the gate swinging. It doesn't seem to need the same period of growth that Berserk did. And we get this real quick little conversation between Takezo and Matahachi about what their motivations were and why they went into battle and why they're doing any of this in the first place before they're attacked. And at this point, we get to see just how the action in this manga is going to be handled. And let's just say, we're not pulling any punches here. Like, it's just right out of the gate, just brutal. And, I don't even know. It's glorious, and I love it. And then when chapter 2 starts, the art, oh my God. Like, oh my God. I am not necessarily a huge fan of color in manga. When color tends to pop up in manga, it's fine, but I'm normally pretty happy when it goes back to being black and white, because I think the medium itself just tends to look better in black and white. The coloring in manga leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion, normally. This is not the case with this. This is amazing. The color choices in it are just stunning. It's so muted and turned down. It's almost like watercolor. Actually, there's black and white shots pages later on where it's like, I say it feels like watercolor, but it's actually like the brush strokes of a more traditional Japanese art style or calligraphy brushes. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know what the proper terminology is for any of that, but oh my God, is it stunning. Oh my God, is it stunning here. And with the combination of the muted, almost washed out faded coloring. Oh shit. What do you even say? It's really good. Anyway, what's even happening here? At this point, we meet Oko and Akame. Akame, I don't. And they are a pair of mother and daughter. And they're going to take him in and they're going to give him food and shelter and all of that stuff. And Oko's husband was murdered by some dude. And they now make a living by going out onto the battlefield and raiding the battlefield, collecting all the weapons and the armor and stuff like that, hiding it in their house, and then selling it to make enough money to live on. Also, Oko is going to pretty aggressively come on to Takezo, and he's going to ultimately turn her down. The group of bandits that killed Oko's husband comes back to steal their stuff because they know what they've been getting up to with stealing from the battlefields, and Takezo straight fucks him up. Also, Matahachi actually helps some in this fight, which, like, he's actually useful. I was kind of surprised. I don't know why. I didn't expect Matahachi to be very useful. But that being said, Takezo is just a beast. I mean, he just rips through people. And then at this point, the story gets a little creepy because Matahachi sneaks into Oko's room to take advantage of her. And in the process, it gets a little icky when she asks who he is and he lies and says that he's Takezo. And then she kind of just goes along with it, but she knows that it's Matahachi. She even kind of grins at him and says, "I thought you had a fiance," or something like that, which makes it even more icky. Matahachi's sneaking in to take advantage of a woman and lying at the same time, and the woman knows what he's doing and who he is. And at the same time, he's like, how old is this woman? What is he, like 17 at this point we're talking about? I know this is back in feudal Japan. I'm just saying, this is wrong on multiple levels. That's all. I mean, hell, irregardless of the fact that Matahachi's 17, even if it was Takezo, they're still both like 17. Let's not get into it. So anyway, the next day, the group's going to come back for revenge, and Takezo makes pretty short work of all of them. Also, in running there, Matahachi falls behind Takezo, and instead of like catching up and joining the battle late or anything like that, no, he just ends up on the forest floor behind a tree with Oko. Matahachi. So at this point, Matahachi and Takezo are going to split up, and Takezo is going to go back to their childhood town of Musashi. No, Miyamoto. Jesus fucking Christ. In the process, he's going to have to go across the border and run past some guards and kind of get himself involved in a big old chase scene, but he'll go back to their hometown, where we then get introduced to Matahachi's mother and his fiancée, Otsugi and Otsu. Now, he's only gone back to his hometown to tell Matahachi's mom that Matahachi's still alive, which he does. And in the process of doing all this, there's a letter involved, and they find out that Matahachi's with Oko now. And in the process, he gets into like a naked fight in a bathhouse. And he eventually gets out of there, and he's going to run straight into Takuan. By the way, remember that book I read? And I said that Takuan was the greatest character in the entire book. So needless to say, I'm excited when he shows up because I want him to be as good in the manga as he was in the book. That's all I'm saying. Also, speaking of the book, I'm trying really hard when I do this to not compare everything that I read to the book, because honestly, if I were going to do that, it would be, this is completely different. That's completely different. Everything has been changed. Most of the stuff with Matahachi, different. Pretty much everything with Otsugi, completely different. I mean, like, polar opposite different. He's there to tell her that Matahachi's still alive. In the book, the problem with Otsugi is caused because he was never able to get to her to tell her, so she assumes the wrong thing because he never had the chance to speak with her. In this, the first thing he does is talk to her, and she completely takes it and twists it and warps it and hates him anyway for completely different reasons than she hates him in the book. So it's like nothing happens in the same way at all from this to the book. And with it being so drastically different, it's, instead of feeling like a disservice to the book, like, oh, they ruined everything, they messed it all up, they couldn't get a single thing right. Actually, I feel quite the opposite here. I feel like it's actually enhancing my read-through of the manga because I know the story from the book, and this is so different that every step of the way, I never know what's around the corner. I never know what's going to happen next. He's keeping me on my toes while still keeping all of the characterizations very, very much so in line with what they should be. It's like the grand picture is being painted in the exact same way. Takezo feels like Takezo. Otsugi feels like Otsugi. You know, all the characters feel like they are functioning, acting, thinking, and behaving exactly how they should, but all the little details of getting there are completely different. So it feels extremely accurate and genuine to the book while using different steps to get there, keeping me on my toes and keeping the reading feel fresh. For a story I literally just finished reading, maybe I'm getting too excited. Could you ever be too excited? I don't think so. But also there's a naked fight in a bathhouse, and that definitely happens in the book. There's definitely a naked bath fight scene, which is awesome. It sounds weird, but like even when I was reading the book and he's in the bathhouse naked and the people jump him and he has to get up and I'm like, this is amazing. And then it showed up in the manga and I was like, of all the things you keep, good call. Good character building moment. Nothing better than a naked fight scene. Now back to Takuan. Also, Takuan's a very good example of everything that I just said, because when he pops up in the manga, just the sheer way that he is drawn and represented on the page is nothing like how I pictured he would look while I was reading the book. But at the same time, the characterization of him is so pitch perfect, it's unreal. Take, for example, he's just a dick. He's rude, he's insulting, he's abrasive. He will insult anyone to their face. He does not care. While somehow simultaneously being very kind and very gentle. He's also normally the wisest person in the entire room. If not the wisest, then he's definitely the most clever. So anyway, Takuan and Takezo are now face to face, and he looks him right in the face and tells him that he is the weakest man in the entire village. And when the guards show up, he sends them off in the other direction to help Takezo. And Takezo, in his arrogant little 17-year-old ass from the bushes, says, I don't need your help, old man, or something like that. And so Takuan's just like, hey, guards! He's right here. And the guard's coming around and back to get him. And Takuan just walks away wailing with laughter. I fucking love Takuan. Now, we're going to have Takuan and Otsu go to the samurai lord to try and convince him to let them go and capture Takezo. And this is going to be intercut with someone who has come to get revenge on Takezo for killing his brother. And up until this point, Takezo has almost been portrayed as a complete force of nature. Just so brutal and so powerful, and he just rips through anything in his path. Which, if you're keeping score here, isn't exactly one-to-one with how he was portrayed in the book. But it is a good portrayal of kind of his mind and the way he thought and functioned and acted at that age. So once again, not a one-to-one, but we're conveying the same thing in a different way. And there's such a richness to both that I'm not going to say either is better. But either way, now we're going to get our first duel where he doesn't just rip through him. It's almost like he finally hits a wall, or at least an object that he can't just blow through. We get a duel with someone similar in level to Takezo. And we also get to see that not everything's going to be so easy for him, and maybe not everything's going to just fall with brute force alone. Ultimately, the fight isn't going to pan out, and it's not going to get to be completed. The guy's going to run away, and Takezo will get jumped, and he'll have to take out that group of people there. But we're starting to get a better understanding of what this manga is ultimately going to be about. It's going to be a little bit deeper. It's going to be a little bit more philosophical than some of the other things that, we have read. There's going to be a little bit more to it than just this man fighting. I mean, just for example, Takezo spends all of the first volume just murdering everything in his path just for him to come face to face with Takuan, and Takuan tell him that he's weak, when all we've seen is strength. But in all of that strength, all Takuan can see is weakness. So we're already getting hints at the philosophy that's going to be peppered throughout this. But then in the middle of that scene, we also hear Takezo say, "I was born into this world. Maybe I'll live to see 20, and then I'll die." So he's stupid too. But if he's willing to pay attention, and he's willing to learn, and he has a few more meetings with Takuan, he might not be stupid for long. And we might just learn a few things along the way too. I'm excited. But anyway, back at the Samurai Lord's house, Takuan tells him, you might not have to commit seppuku because Otsu is going to capture Takezo. And I did read the whole first volume, and as much as I really wanted to put the whole first volume in this video, like do one video for one volume, there's just no way. It's too big. It's just too much to do. And I didn't want to do it the disservice of trying to rush through it. Eventually, as I kind of get on a roll with the story, I hopefully will get to the point where I can start doing a volume of video. But to get this rolling and to get it going and to get everything I wanted to say said, I just don't feel like I would be doing it justice if I did it in one video. I don't have the stamina or the endurance for it. But moving forward, we're really just going to have to play it by ear, because this feels like it's going to be a very mature manga. And I don't mean that in the sense of blood and gore and violence and boobs. Although all of that is very clearly here, I don't mean that it's a mature manga in that sense. By mature, I mean it feels like it's going to be an adult story told at an adult level to an adult audience. On an adult level intellectually. So it doesn't feel like it's really interested in spoon feeding the concepts to you, at least not yet, but I'm just getting started. It also feels like we're getting ready to start having a lot of conversations about philosophy and human nature in general. And this makes me very happy. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give the opening to this I'm going to say 9. It was really good. Anyway, oh my gosh, I forgot to thank my patrons. I'll make sure that I get a card up at the beginning of the video because I really do appreciate every single one of you. Thank you guys so very much. Also, if you are interested in becoming a patron, the link is always in the description below. The link for the Discord's in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.